guys, back at you again with another video. And I know sometimes when we talk about the rigged NFL and rigged sports in general, professional sports, I know sometimes it becomes daunting. And sometimes knowing that it's rigged, all the fun just gets sucked out of it. Like, I know, guys, I'm there with you guys, and I really don't like that part of it too. But I try to make it fun too, because I know it's rigged and scripted, but we already know not every single point of every single game is fudged with, you know what I mean? There are certain points of the game that are legitimate, and obviously there are some that are just completely just fabricated. Most of it is, I would say most of it isn't fake, but there are points, and critical points in the game where things are messed with, swayed, and altered. But in any event, we can still see what players are better than who. We can tell who's who. Like right here, we see this Jordan moment. I have a video about this years ago about how that push-off wasn't called right there. Look at this push-off, guys. Right here. Let's watch this push-off. Watch this push-off. I did a video on this, and this push-off wasn't called. It's very subtle, but if you slow it down, you see he really shoves this guy. And the floor wasn't wiped clean. They kept it wet. This was a controversial play. And then people were talking about the ball being swayed and directed. So there are points in the game that are absolutely manipulated and made for stars. Absolutely. Like Tom Brady, all those BS moments. Look at how the net just flies up. Nets don't fly up like that anymore. Who knows, guys? But the point of the matter is I'm here to make a list of I guess, 2 starting lineups that I think would be the best, that I think are my top 5 or top 10 players. My first starting lineup, I think I would go with Steph Curry, just because he revolutionized the game. Players aren't trying to be like Magic Johnson anymore, or they're trying to be like Steph Curry. They're shooting from half court. They're trying to shoot from everywhere because they know that's what the NBA is. It's about who can shoot the best. Statistics have shown the best shooting team wins. And that's what people are trying to do. They're trying to be like Steph Curry. I don't know what changed. I don't know why everyone wants to play that way. I know it's flashy. I know it's cool. But Magic Johnson's way of playing was also effective. He's got, 3 championships? I forget off the top of my head. But he's got his championships as well. His style of play worked as well. It just wasn't as flashy. He was more of a giving player. He saw the whole floor. He was able to see things before it happened. Steph Curry is not really an improviser like that. He can set people up, but he's more trying to get his shot and trying to put points up, and he's more a scorer. Magic didn't really have a great jump shot. Like he had games where he would just keep throwing it up, missing, just keep trying, and eventually make one. He would have games like that, and then he would have games where he would just go off and just couldn't miss. And ultimately, my number 1 point guard would be Steph Curry because of that, and the backup point guard would be Magic Johnson, I would say, because he had the combination of size, grace, and strength. Wasn't really a speed guy, but he had the acceleration and the quickness to get to his spots and make guys shine. He really was really good at making players better. He made Kareem better when his short amount of time they played together. He made James Worthy better. Guys like that, Byron Scott, guys like that were benefiting from his passing and his givingness. So those would be my top 2 point guards. I wouldn't say Magic Johnson revolutionized the game, but he had that smile. He always just had you wanting to watch and see what he was going to do next. He was just that type of player. Steph Curry doesn't have that kind of magic like Magic does. He's special in his own right, but it's in a different way. But those would be my top 2. They both weren't good on defense. They both have holes, and every player has a hole in their game. And it happens to be, for those 2 guys, defense. They just weren't great defenders. But for Magic, what he had on his side was size. He was 6'9", guys, 240 pounds. So he was a big guy, a big point guard. So he could guard all positions. Maybe not center back then, but he could play every position because of his size. But he just wasn't a great defender because he put so much on offense, exerted so much that on defense he just did what he could, but he conserved stamina, because it's a long game in the NBA. It's 15-minute quarters, man. Like, after 2 minutes of running up and down that court, you get tired. Like, it's a tiring game. So that's why basketball players, if you pay attention, basketball players are mainly skinny. Like, it's a certain body type to be a basketball player, long and thin. That's why Shaq had a rough career getting hurt with his knees. That's why the bigger players struggle, because of their knees. That hardwood, it really wears and tears on you. All right, let's go to the shooting guards. So my number one, obviously, we'd have to go with MJ. MJ, obviously he's one of the players that the NBA just bolstered up as their guy, Oh my God, it's Michael Jordan. Oh my God, he's glorified. Oh my God, he's Air Jordan-less sneakers. It's like a mirage, Michael Jordan is. It's like he's not even real. So people are just so mesmerized by him. People that haven't even seen him play are just like indoctrinated by him. It's crazy. Michael Jordan is just this image that no one can really measure properly. And as men, honestly, we really aren't measured until we're dead. When we die, that's when people realize our worth and what we were worth. People really don't give you your flowers while you're alive. It's when you're dead when you're like, oh my God, I can't believe how important he was. Oh my God, this, oh my God, that. Every time, guys, it's tough, man. Like, everybody they don't get their flowers till they're dead. That's just the way it goes, man. And other than that, Michael Jordan, he has the 6 championships. I would say the last 2 obviously had those questionable calls, but he really didn't have competition in his championship runs. Earlier in his career, he couldn't beat those Pistons teams. And what was that? What was that other team? The Cavaliers team he struggled with, and there was another team he struggled with. I guess Boston. He couldn't get through he couldn't get by those teams that were, dynasties and had long streaks in the championship runs. Like the Lakers, he couldn't get by those guys. They just were better. Boston, Jordan just couldn't beat those guys where they were young, and he started beating them when they got old. Those guys all got old, and then he started beating them, and then it was Jordan's time in his 30s. But all through Jordan's 20s, he couldn't win anything. Till Pippen arrived, and finally they started winning. Finally, I guess, how old were they? I would have to really look back. I think Jordan won his first championship when he was 29, if I'm not mistaken. And then he won, 3, and then years off, and then 3 again. So, yeah, he won them late, just like LeBron did as well. So that's a comparison. So, I'd give, all right, MJ number 2, and then, number 1. And number 2 would be Kobe Bean Bryant. Basically emulated his game just like MJ did. It was basically MJ 2.0. This guy literally looked like Michael Jordan in every asset. The way he played defense, the way he shot the ball, the way he moved, literally everything about him. His life was cut short. Honestly, we should do a video on that airplane crash, because I think there's conspiracy to that. There's a conspiracy to everything, honestly. Nothing is clear cut if you really think about it. So I would give MJ the top 2 or second spot on the shooting guard list. If I had to make a team, he'd be the backup to MJ. Now we go to small forward. With small forward, whoa, look at Shaq break that rim. That was crazy. But that was staged, guys. Let's look at this backboard. Look at this backboard. There's no way that this wasn't already cracked and broken. Look at this part of the backboard right here. It was already loose. You can tell. Let's see Shaq as he hangs off of it. Yeah, it's like Shaq knew it was going to fall. He was prepared. Look at how he's ending. He knew that backboard was coming down. He's such a liability. The NBA's lucky he didn't get hurt there. But small forwards, I think it's obvious. It has to be Michael. It has to be LeBron James. LeBron James has the most points ever. He just passed Kareem a little while ago. I think that's self-explanatory. Kareem had the most unstoppable shot for 20 years, and LeBron was able to surpass him in today's NBA. So that's something you can't deny. You can't deny that he's one of the best ever. If you want to say he's not better than Jordan, whatever. That argument's for another day. We can have that argument. But we'll do that argument. We'll do that another day. The MJ versus Michael Jordan or LBJ versus MJ argument. We'll see. We'll talk about that. You can go either way with that. But LeBron has to get the number one spot for the small forward. He's the best small forward to play the game, guys. He's the most giving player. He doesn't always need the ball in his hand. He can play off the ball. He can play with the ball and have guys all around him ready to shoot while he's just attacking the basket. So he's a unique player because he's so big, 6'9", 250, so dominant. He can get to the basket at will. You can't stop him. If you double him, then that's when the shooters go crazy, and he doesn't mind passing the ball. That's what makes him so great. He's a giving player. Most players are all about theirs, all about their contract, all about what they're doing. That's what it's about. And that Damian Lillard shot, we got to admit that this shot was probably not real. Like, let's look at that ball. And then it speeds up the further down it goes. We could even slow it down. Let's slow it down a little. I want to see the trajectory and see as it like goes down if we see anything weird. Let's look at the ball. Yep, it's speeding up. It's absolutely speeding up. But usually those ones swish, so I'm a little like, but alright, but that's what they do. They did it with an Embiid shot, a bunch of college shots. They're calling 2-pointers threes when guys are at the free throw line. It's crazy, guys. But other than that, yeah, LeBron has to be the number one small forward. The number two small forward, I would have to go with, it has to be Kevin Durant. Because I'm thinking about guys that can play in any era of basketball and dominate and do what they're doing. Kevin Durant in the 50s, he'd be unstoppable. Think about Kevin Durant in any era of basketball. This guy is 7 foot tall, can shoot from anywhere, can dribble like a point guard. Not really known for his passing, but he can pass. Better on defense because he's so long and lengthy. He freaking bats balls everywhere, freaking block shots. He's everywhere, guys. When you're 7 foot, or whatever they have them listed at, 6'9", whatever it is, he's a tall, skinny, lengthy guy that can make plays. And he can play in any era. So can LeBron, so can MJ, so can Kobe. Steph Curry, are you kidding me? You don't think Steph Curry could have played in the 80s, the 60s? If he can shoot, like, let's say that he can shoot still the way he's shooting. You don't think he can play in any of those eras? Maybe he couldn't play in the 50s because it would all count as 2-pointers, but, like, ever since the three-point line was invented, Steph Curry can play in any era. If you want to tell me, all right, he can't play in the 50s, you got it, fine. Okay, he can't play in the 50s. But who's really trying to play in the 50s? That's right now. Speaking of which, we're seeing it right now as I'm talking about it. It's so funny. I did not plan that. That's just, I guess, we're right on time. So, yeah, Kevin Durant, he's a guy that literally... He's different, though. He's a guy that worries about what people think and say, so he couldn't play in any time, actually. In the 80s, they would probably chew him up, because the way they talked, the way they treated guys in the 80s, I don't think he could have played in any era, just because of that. But only strictly basketball-wise. Psyche-wise, I don't know if he could have handled it. If you're saying the full package and psyche's involved, then I can't put KD as a second small forward. The second small forward, I would, you know what? Larry Bird. I'd put Larry Bird then. If we can't put KD because of his psyche, I'm putting Larry Bird there. Larry Bird and LeBron James. Larry Bird is basically, who can I compare him to? He's basically a cross between Dirk Nowitzki and Luka and Dirk Nowitzki. I'd say those are his comps. Those two, if those two had a baby, blop, that's Larry Bird. Guy can shoot from anywhere. He can pass. He can dribble. Defender, elite. Guys, Larry Bird is an elite defender. He's probably right there with LeBron in his prime. Like, if LeBron at 25 years old, let's say, game on the line, he knows he needs to make a stop. You tell him this, he's locked in. Yeah, Larry Bird is on that level. Like, he'll get in your face. You ain't getting by him. He's got the lateral quickness. I'm saying Larry before the back injuries. he was that guy. Like, you aren't scoring on him. If he's locked in, you're not scoring on him. LeBron's like that when he's locked in. He hasn't been locked in because you're not going to play amazing defense for freaking, 48 minutes if your team sucks. And if during a pointless regular season game, obviously you're just going to play when you need to. You're going to play hard in certain moments. You're not going to do it the entire time like when you were younger in your career trying to prove yourself. So people got to understand that. Oh, he's not as good as a defender. Yes, he is. He just doesn't have to defend like that anymore. He's got nothing to prove. But if you tell him we're in the finals, game on the line, no one's getting by him. He's going to turn it on. You know what I mean? Same thing with any of these other guys. They're not great on defense because they conserve on offense so they can play better offense. They say, I'll give up on defense so I can play better offense. But if you tell them you can't do that, man, the game's on the line, finals game, they'll play lockdown defense. Because the game and all the marbles are on the line, guys. That's how it goes. So, Larry Bird would be the number 2 small forward. Now let's go to power forward. Power forward, the first one, I would go Dirk Nowitzki. Dirk Nowitzki can play in any era, guys. Let's be honest. This guy can shoot from anywhere. He can rebound. He can play inside. Great defender. Great rebounder. Team passer. Team ball player. Great leader. He won that championship over LeBron. You know, even though LeBron should have won, we know it was scripted. It was what was it called? What do those people call it? It was a humiliation ritual for LeBron. So we know. All right, so he got that championship. But even without that, let's say he didn't get that. Let's talk about the way he played, guys. This guy was amazing. Like, literally, Dirk Nowitzki, go watch film on him. Go watch how he dominated. Go look at his footwork. Go look at what he did to players. Go look at how he made his team better. His vision, the way he freaking attacked, his aggressiveness, his tenacity. Dirk Nowitzki is definitely top 1 or 2 power forward. My second one would be Tim Duncan. You can argue with me 1 or 2 with those 2 guys. Tim Duncan or Nowitzki. You can even throw Garnett in there, but I think Nowitzki's better than both of them because he's able to shoot from anywhere and he can do what they do inside. So it's like he can do what you do, but you can't do what he does. So that's what makes him better. You know what I mean? He can do everything that Tim Duncan does. He can do everything Kevin Garnett can do, but they can't do what he does. He can shoot from like anywhere, literally from 40 feet away. Those guys can't do it consistently. They couldn't do it at all. Kevin Garnett developed his shot late in his career. Tim Duncan, he was a backboard player earlier in his career. He wasn't shooting threes, hitting off the backboard. He was shooting twos. And then he started not using the backboard later in his career. So, yeah, no, that's not happening, guys. So, it has to be Dirk number 1. But, I mean, I'd be glad to hear the argument. Dirk number 1, and then I'd go Duncan number 2, I guess, because of all those championships. And just because of the way he played, he was just a silent assassin. Like, he just played the game. There was no flash to it. It's not going to look pretty. But you're going to be like, before you know it, you close your eyes, all of a sudden the guy has friggin' 25 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals. It's like, it's just a quiet, efficient game. It's always getting done properly. He plays the game the right way. He doesn't need any attention, any flash. He's perfect. You can build a team around him. You can build around Nowitzki and all those other guys I named. You can build around them and run your offense through them. So I guess it would be tough with them all on the same team, but don't have to worry about that because it's not going to happen. All right, so at center, I would have to go with center, you got to think about someone that can play in any era. Because in this era, you have to be able to shoot, but not really as a center. It's more you have to be able to rebound and stretch the floor a little bit and move. You have to really be able to move around. So if you tell me I can pick a guy in any era of when they were playing, my center would be Kareem, early Kareem. Well, no, not early Kareem. I'd say 29-year-old Kareem. Give me 29-year-old Kareem. He can play in any era of basketball. He's the best center. He has the unstoppable hook shot. You ain't stopping it. I don't care who you are. He made it every single time. And he rebounded. He was athletic. He had the quick jumps. Like, his consecutive jumps were faster than anyone for his size. He was 7'3", right? Big guy. He was bigger than Shaq in height. Obviously, he didn't weigh as much as Shaq. But he would score on Shaq at will. He's the greatest center as a Laker, they say. And it's not even Shaq. Shaq is probably like second or third. People would argue Chamberlain was better, but I wouldn't. Chamberlain wasn't better than Shaq. Let's be honest. Shaq was dominant, which is why he's my number two. But my number one, though, the reason why Kareem, he was unstoppable and he didn't have to do it with power. He didn't have to bully you and punish you. And he can shoot free throws and outside a little bit around the arc, too. He can shoot all. Like, he was literally a really good player, guys. Shaq, the reason I give him number two is because he was so big and dominant. If you give me Shaq, 30-year-old, no, you give me 28 to 30-year-old Shaq, or 32-year-old Shaq, anywhere in those 4 years, you give me that Shaq, I'm good with it. Because that Shaq was able to run the floor. Or give me Shaq in Orlando before he got fat, because he was still dominant. He was still able to back you down and punish you, and he had the speed. He was able to dribble like a guard. He was actually a different player in Orlando before he got fat. Like, I'm talking, because he picked up like almost 80 pounds, people said, in L.A., so he picked up 80 pounds, so he had to play backing down on people because that was his game. He had so much weight on people. He just changed the way he played. If you go watch him in Orlando, he was playing way different, guys. He used to dribble up the floor. He used to like do circles around people. He used to jump. He used to do jump shots. He used to be okay at the free throw line, but then when you gain 80 pounds, man, that's like a whole extra body on you, man. It just makes your arms heavier, your legs, everything is just different. And he just never lost the weight, and then he kept picking up weight even though he was playing. There were reports Kobe was saying he was just so lazy, he would never practice, he would always eat. Lazy as hell. That was the reports of Shaq, but either way, though, if you give me an option and you tell me I can pick him at any time, all right, give me him in Orlando, and I'll be all right. See, that's Shaq right there trying to guard Iverson. He can't do it. But other than that, guys, that's my top 10 players that I would make in the lineup if you gave me the opportunity. And next time we'll talk about LeBron and MJ. Thanks for watching, guys.